Hi there! Today I want to show you how to make a pumpkin curry, a locally grown seasonal pumpkin curry. So I'm going to go through all the steps and you can see the recipe down below if you want to do it. Follow along with me. While you do it, you can get all the ingredients and then we can make it together. Today I am making a vegan pumpkin curry and that's going to include a lot of different things. I've got my onions sauteing in the pot with a little bit of coconut oil. It's about one small onion. And now I've chopped up some ginger and some garlic here, about 2 cloves of garlic and a big tablespoon of ginger. And now I'm cutting up this tempeh. You could also use something like jackfruit for a vegan curry, some kind of protein. Tempeh obviously has more protein than jackfruit does. And I'm just cubing it up. And I'm doing this first before I do the vegetables because I want to saute that together with the onion or the ginger and garlic. I add that after I brown the onion so the onion gets nice and caramelized. So that's going to go into the pot. And I've got some coconut oil in there so that'll help to keep it, from sticking to the pot. And I'm going to do just a low setting. It's important to do low setting while you're cooking, you're browning your onions, ginger, garlic, because you don't want to burn anything. So this is a really good low setting. So that way we're just going to brown that. No seasonings have been added yet. We're just browning some of our base ingredients. And then after that, really the sky's the limit. Let's see, I've got cilantro here, which will get added at the end. I've got some broccoli. I figured that would make some really beautiful green color in there. That'll get added later as well. The thing that takes the longest to cook are mushrooms and the pumpkin. And these are white mushrooms because I did a gut test and I found out, lo and behold, that white mushrooms, white button, organic, do way better in my body than any other kind of mushrooms. So those are the ones I've been buying lately. You don't want to rinse your mushrooms. You want to just dust off any dirt that's on there. They usually grow mushrooms, especially organic, in just like a medium that's a lot of straw and maybe a little bit of dirt, but anything that's on there, it's grown in a really clean environment indoors. So you don't really have to worry about washing them because your mushrooms will soak up a lot of the water and you don't want soggy mushrooms. You want to put your mushrooms in at the beginning. Sometimes I put them in with the same time that I put in the onion because they do take a little longer to cook. But since this is a curry, it's okay. I can put them in later because I'm going to be cooking this for a little while, so it's no big deal. I'm just kind of slicing them, but you could also just quarter them if you want really nice big mushroom chunks. If you're not putting tempeh in, you can quarter them and just have a little more meatiness in there. It's super important to cook mushrooms. If you're a raw foodie or you've been doing a lot of raw foods, mushrooms is one of those foods that we definitely need to cook. It gets rid of any little mycotoxins in there, any fungus that's unhealthy for the body. There's some fungus that's good for the body and some that's not as good for the body. So I ended up putting in about half these mushrooms, which is probably, I think I put in 8 to 10 medium to large mushrooms. Totally your choice how much you put in. So we'll go ahead and put that into the pot and we'll get that browning as well. It's getting a little sticky. I think the tempeh sucked up a lot of that oil. So at this point you could put in a little veggie broth if you wanted, a little water, or a little bit more oil. I like to use coconut oil in a curry because, curry and coconut go so well together. And coconut oil can withstand a little bit higher temperatures than other oils can. So we're going to cut up our pumpkin. So this is an organic sugar pie pumpkin, or it's actually this is called a red pumpkin. So I really like the outer color. I think it's super beautiful. I'm just going to cut both ends off. And you can see how orange this flesh is. It's super beautiful. I could save these ends too. I like to have a bag in my freezer and I save all my scraps and I throw it in there for when I make a veggie broth. You're going to get all kinds of good nutrition from the skin and really good flavor. I like to cut my squash before I peel it. It just makes it a little easier to do like a flat cut. But before we do that, we'll scoop out these seeds. This is just such a beautiful pumpkin. What I notice is these kind of pumpkins and kabocha squash tend to be a little more starchy than like a regular pumpkin or a butternut squash. Tend to be a little higher in carbohydrates as well. But in the winter, in the fall, there's just nothing like a good pumpkin curry. So now what I'm going to do, I like to do it flat like this and just take my knife and just slice off these pieces. Alright, now that we got all the orange cut off, if you don't get all of it, it's fine to leave a couple little scraps of skin, but skin can be very tough and fibrous on a lot of these squashes, so I like to get them off. Now I'm just cutting slices like this, and we're going to cut them small enough so that I don't have to blend this later. I want it just to be little bite-sized pieces, big enough that you're getting a bite, and small enough that you don't feel like it's the only thing in your mouth. I like to have a little bit of balance of all the ingredients. So I'm going to measure this, so in case you have a larger pumpkin, I like to eat locally and organic, and I like to eat seasonally, so that means I'm going to eat these foods that are in season at this time. So one of these smaller pumpkins is going to give you about 4 cups of squash. So now we're going to check on what's going on in this pot here. Looks like we still got, the mushrooms are still going. They're starting to brown. The smell is amazing. It smells like the smell, the umami smell of mushrooms cooking is just a beautiful smell. What'll help these cook faster is a little bit of salt. I like this coarse ground salt for cooking, not so much for raw foods or for sprinkling, but this little scoop that's in here is about a 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm going to start with about 4 heaping scoops. And what the salt does is it'll start to break down the liquids will start to release from the mushrooms. It's a little bit longer. I might turn it up to medium low. And I'm going to set this aside. Okay, now we are going to add some 3 cups of water or veggie broth, or whatever kind of broth you want to use. We've got 1 cup of coconut cream. What I like to do is buy these Natural Grocers, little 3-ounce cans of cream, and I just drain all the water out, this water that's in there, because I don't know what the quality of that water is, so I'd rather just scoop out just the fat and then use my own water in there. So these mushrooms and garlic are getting beautiful. They're really breaking down, and the tempeh. So we will go ahead and add in this cup of coconut cream and 3 cups of water or broth or liquid, and then about 1 to 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos. This is a good replacement for soy sauce. You could also use tamari, which is still soy, but it's gluten-free. And we're going to turn that up just a little bit and let that coconut cream melt in there. I've got about a handful of sun-dried tomatoes, or you could use a small can of tomato paste. That's an optional ingredient. If you're avoiding nightshades, just don't put this part in. Really what I love about curry is there's so many ways to make it. There's so many ingredients you can put in. I think that's half a cup, a little less than half a cup of dried tomatoes. Sometimes you can find them in oil. Sometimes you can find them dried like I did. And I keep these on hand just for making soups or different stocks. All right, so in that goes. This is all going to just start brewing up. And then I can also put my pumpkin in at this point. And it's going to seem like there's less liquid in there that I need, but as these vegetables sweat and let out some of their own liquids, it will get more liquidy, especially once we put the zucchini and the other ingredients. So I'm going to turn that, put a lid on it, and let it start to do its thing. Okay, now we're going to put in the broccoli, and you can use the stem if you want. If you are going to use the stem, though, cut off the really fibrous parts at the end and make sure that you actually cut all the fiber out of the outside, because that's not very palatable. It doesn't taste super good when you leave that on. So you want to get rid of all that, put that in your broth bag, and we can just chop this in quarters and use that in the curry. Very small though, because you don't want this texture to take over. You could also shred this and put it in a slaw. And then with our broccoli, we want to keep these florets so that people get like the actual little bites, pieces of broccoli. And you can leave those little stems on if you want. Those are nice. Sometimes the stem right here gets a little too fibrous though. So, and you can even pull these apart. Another thing you could do instead of broccoli is cauliflower. So just do the same idea. I'm not putting a ton in. I put one small head, which is probably about a cup. Yep. And then with the stem, yeah, that fills it in to be like a cup and a half, 2 cups. And then we're going to use our zucchini in there. Zucchini cook fairly fast, so you want to keep an eye on your zucchini. I like to cube it, like so. And just put little chunks in. Some people like their veggies bigger. I like mine on the smaller side because I just want to get like a little bit of everything in a bite. So on top of the 1.5 cups of broccoli, put that right on top, and that's probably another cup. So it's coming out to be about 2 cups, almost 3, of extra veggies. And then the last thing I've got here, not the last ingredient, but the last thing I'm going to add now is I have some purple kale. About 5 leaves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of red or purple kale. And I'm just going to chunk those. And I might wait to add those in. I'm not going to use the stems. Those will be great in a broth. Ready? We're going to check on our soup. Take the lid off. See what's going on. It's looking good. The pumpkin is still pretty firm. It actually isn't even really, it's hot. But it looks like I need to cook that pumpkin for maybe another 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in 10 minutes. I've got about 4 more minutes left for the pumpkin from that 10 minutes. And I decided I want to put in a little bit of color. So I peeled a yellow and a purple carrot. The purple carrot's so pretty. Look at the center of that. And I thought that would add some really pretty color to the curry, so I want to get that in there before I add the broccoli, since carrot is a root vegetable and it takes a little longer. But again, we're adding so many different nutrient values in here. It looks like it's coming along really nicely. I'm keeping it at a low heat. I don't really want it to boil. It's going to boil anyway, but just keep it more on a simmer, not a rolling boil. Really good. We haven't even added the curry powder yet, so we're going to do that next. Don't worry about the peels, getting the nutrition from the peels, because I got my little broth bag out to just start adding all the little scraps too. And you can throw any little extras that fall away. Like where our cilantro stems will be great. We're going to add the cilantro at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and throw the stems right into the broth, so no waste at all. Love that. So I'm going to set that cilantro aside for now so we don't accidentally add it. This is going to go in next, as well as our West Indies rub. Love this. This is certified organic West Indies rub from Mountain Rose Herbs. It has garlic, black pepper, turmeric, sea salt, ginger, fenugreek, orange or coriander seed powder, paprika, cayenne, yellow mustard, anise, and cardamom. Very Indian, cumin. Gives it a really nice flavor. I like this better than regular curry powder, but of course if you don't have this, just use regular curry powder. That's absolutely fine. I'm going to go heavy on the spice, probably 2 tablespoons. I really want that curry flavor to come through. Sometimes if you don't add enough, you don't feel like you can taste all the flavor in there. So we'll go ahead right now while we're waiting for that 10 minutes to be up, and we'll add the 2 tablespoons of curry powder. And I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's been 8 minutes, so I feel like that's long enough with the pumpkin cooking. Turn that timer off and add my zucchini and broccoli now. And I'm just pushing it in, make sure it's getting down into the liquid. And then it probably should be ready in another 10 minutes. 8 to 10, 8 minutes. We don't want to overcook the broccoli or anything like that, so I'm just going to go with 5 minutes, and we'll check it in 5. And we'll add the kale and coriander, the cilantro. In other countries, they call it coriander. We call the seed coriander and the leaves cilantro. And do you know that coriander seeds actually come from cilantro? Those are cilantro seeds. So we're getting all the herbs ready, the greens and the herbs. The other thing I wanted to add in was some basil. I like the organic basil from Trader Joe's if you live near one, because the price is really good and you get a ton of basil. I might also make a pesto today with all this basil before it goes bad. I have a problem with basil going bad quickly, so I like to make a big pesto sauce with it that I can continue to use in my food. So it looks like I'm doing not that many leaves. I could add a few more for sure. These ones are already getting brown. Maybe 10 large basil leaves or more. I mean, oof, you can't go wrong with basil. I might also, I'm going to cook some of it in, but I might also just chiffonade some for the top for later to put like right on top raw. Because basil leaves don't do as well. So these will basically, after the pot gets turned off, we will go ahead and add all of our fresh herbs to the top. So we've got this beautiful curry with all these absolutely fabulous chunks. I might have to blow on it to try it. I want to please get a piece of pumpkin in there, maybe some mushroom. I'd kind of like some herbs in there as well, maybe some cilantro, right? Got to get that perfect bite. Oh my gosh. The flavor is so good with that West Indies curry. I'm really going to be enjoying this for the next couple days. Another trick you can do is put some kelp noodles in the pot, or if you want, serve it with some white rice, steamed rice or quinoa. You can put a grain in there totally if you want. Most people are used to having a curry with a grain. I tend to not eat grains and carbs too much, so I'm happy with it being just like this. It's lighter, and then I get a little more of this curry flavor versus the grains. I hope you make the curry. Comment below if you decide to make this. Let me know how it turned out for you.